Wendy,
Trey.
the recording is in process.
It
Today is September 29th as we meander through the college football season. Wendy, we're going to talk about last week's games and then this week's games.
Right.
It still feels like summer around here. I mean, you might get a cool morning or a cool evening, but nothing like fall yet.
Right.
Little disappointed in that, but hey, you got what you got, and we're going to have to deal with what we got. I know Chris Arnold took his little girl Izzy down to the Alabama football game for her first football game last weekend.
How was it?
I think they said they had a great time, but he just said it was smoking hot down there.
Yeah.
So, if you're in the sun at those games, it's really tough to sit in there with it. But still got the heat, Wendy. We're going to talk about last week's games, Wendy. And
listen,
and I'm going to hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to work from down to up, down to up.
Well, I have a problem and it needs to be addressed right this second.
What is it, Wendy?
All right. So I don't know if anybody can see all of this. Okay. So can everybody see these pictures that Trey decides to be the screenshot of our podcast? Trey, do you see my face? Do you do this on purpose because I was bashing Alabama? Trey, look at you and then look at your sister. I look like a crazy person.
Wendy, I will tell you one thing. When you go to upload these videos on YouTube, it's a 2 megabyte size picture.
Okay.
Well, none of the pictures that I have, all the pictures that I have are too big to upload. And you have to kind of resize them and redo them, and I don't have them in the right format. I can't go to my photos on my computer and just drag a photo in there and it work. You have to resize it. It has to be in a format, and sometimes I can figure out how to do it, and sometimes I can't. I apologize, Wendy. I'll try to.
I'm just saying, you look really nice, and your sister looks like I'm bat crap crazy, Trey.
Well,
so I want this addressed that I do not choose these pictures. This is Trey, and I think he chose this one because I was bashing Alabama so bad last week.
Wendy, there's 3 pictures that they give you an option of. They say you can take one of these 3, and I try to find the one that at least looks a little catchy.
Right. Well, that one worked.
I was sitting there going, huh? What? Okay.
I'm just giving you a hard time, but I had to bring it up.
All right. I love you. I'll try to work on the picture. All right, Wendy, we're going to go from top to bottom. I sent you a list so we can be a little bit more prepared. We're going to go talk about last week's football game, which would have been, September 22nd-ish or, 23rd-ish, whenever it really was. All right, we had Notre Dame, Ohio State, Wendy. Notre Dame loses the game on the last play of the game with Ohio State winning the football game and a really good football game, but Ohio State wins the game. The coach comes out, and he's mad at an 86-year-old Lou Holtz. Wendy, what's up?
Well, I mean, Trey, I called, I don't like Ryan Day, so I just wanted anybody to beat Ryan Day. I'm just telling you, Ohio State's not that good. Notre Dame went down to the wire with them. You see what I'm saying? And I think everybody this year is more on an equal playing field than we would like to think. I really am starting to believe that now. I mean, in another example of that, we'll talk about it in a minute, would be the LSU Arkansas game. I just feel like these.
Go ahead.
I just feel like these bigger teams, these Ohio State's, Michigan, things like that, I think people are more closely matched this year than we've been in a while. That's what I think.
All right, so Ohio State wins that game. Colorado, the prime time, goes up to Oregon, and Oregon lays them out, Wendy. Really no contest, and it looked like Oregon came off the gas late. Listen, Colorado was due for this. I mean, they had 3 big emotional wins. They're going up to Oregon. Oregon's a good football team. Hello, Bo Nix. Does Auburn want Bo Nix back now? Well, probably.
Well, Bo Nix is about 37, 38 years old now. Isn't that about right? So, I mean, I'd want him back too. He's in his prime.
He's in his prime. Wendy, we're going to get to the game. You just talked about LSU, Arkansas, Wendy, which was a later game on Saturday after some of the other games that ended up being a great game, back and forth. Nobody could figure out who was going to win the game. It was obvious that Arkansas was not going to stop LSU.
Right.
And Arkansas kept scoring, a lot of really good effort from Arkansas, but LSU comes up with a late field goal to win the game, and a great game, Wendy, a lot closer than I thought. And I think this is kind of what you had in mind with that game.
So I've told everybody this Justin Jefferson kid's a really good quarterback. He's been there a while. He knows the offense. He can do things with his feet. He's going to do a lot right by himself to win a game like this. And that's exactly what he did. And I really hate that they couldn't pull it out. But again, it just shows me LSU's beatable. They're not as good as people think they are. They're really not. Now, didn't a really good player, though, get knocked out of this game?
I don't know, but I think what's in my head right now is I don't know that is his name Justin Jefferson. I swear that was a receiver in the early 90s. This guy's name is KJ Jefferson.
Okay, do I call him? Okay, so Jefferson
I think, is like a receiver either from 1995 or a current professional football player. The Arkansas quarterback's name is KJ Jefferson.
Okay, well, let me just make sure everybody understands something. I get names wrong all the time. I got the last name right. Everybody knows what I was talking about, I think.
Right. And you're right, Wendy. The guy really put on a good performance. Arkansas gave it a lot of fight. And realistically, it made LSU look a little bit more manageable for some teams that are going to have to play them coming down the road. Wendy, we're going to go to the Auburn football Tigers. Played the Texas A&M Aggies at 11 o'clock. I mean, if you were ready or not, here we come. Auburn comes out winning, and I think Auburn looks pretty good.
Me too.
And they're playing hard, they're playing good, and they're in this game with Arkansas, Wendy. With A&M, Wendy. And I'm gonna tell you this: Auburn had more penalties than I've ever seen. I was yelling at the screen for Auburn to just run the ball. I'm not sure what would have happened in that game if Auburn literally would have run the ball on every play. But they ended up just getting behind the sticks, like what they call, these weird, all of a sudden it's 1st and 10, and next thing you know, it's 2nd and 16. It's right. They just could not stop the penalties, Wendy. Everybody's talking about Auburn's offense and what the problem they have is. And to be honest with you, they're still in the game late in the game.
I thought so too. Much better game than any of us thought it was going to be. I thought they were just going to get drilled. There are definitely some holes in this offense for Auburn, but I think these kids like this coach, and I think they've got a lot of heart. Meaning, I have watched Auburn teams in the last 4 years give up in a game. I've watched it. I've seen it, right? These kids fought the whole entire time, in my opinion. They like this guy. They like this team. And I think Auburn's on the way back up. I believe that.
Yeah, I do too. And if anybody was really watching that game, and sometimes you're watching in passing if you're watching it, and this is a little bit intricate part of the game, Wendy, but A&M has the ball with like 6 or 7 minutes to go up by 14 points. And Bobby Petrino's out there throwing the ball. They go 2 incomplete passes and a running play. They take 30 seconds off the clock, and they're basically giving the ball right back to Auburn.
Yeah.
That will beat A&M at some point. And for somebody to be as good as the Petrino guy and the head coach's name on the offense,
Jimbo Fisher,
late in the game, not to run the ball 3 times and you've taken 3 or 4 minutes off the clock. They actually let Auburn stay in the game, Winnie. There's a little bit more intricate part of that game. 2 incomplete passes and a running play when you're up by 14 trying to bleed the clock. That was a weird thing by A&M. So come on, get your stuff together. But Auburn still looks good. Hey, listen, Hugh Freeze is gonna give these guys a shot. When we're gonna get to the game that you thought was going to be lost, and that was the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Ole Miss Rebels, where you predicted. I'm not going to go out and say it, but you did predict Ole Miss to win the game.
Oh, I predicted everybody to beat us.
So
and let me tell you, first half Alabama was terrible. So I don't know what part of the game you want to talk about, first half or second half. Those were two different teams.
The scoreboard. I want to talk about the scoreboard. Go ahead.
Well, the scoreboard, Trey, doesn't account for the first half of that game. The first half of that game, we looked like trash. We looked terrible. I left Mother's house. I left her house. I was like, I'm done watching Alabama football. I cannot handle it. I did not see us going down in like this ball of fire that I felt like we were going down in. But I'm going to tell you something. We got out coached and we got outplayed that first half. The score, though, some way, somehow, still didn't show that at the end of the first half. The score didn't. We come out the second half. That's Alabama football. This kid, Milroe, he looked ready. He looked confident. He didn't look scared. The receivers looked like they were everybody was getting timed up right. We ran the ball more. Our running back really did a good job, I think. We wore down their defense, which we knew we were going to have to do. And I mean, Trey, Bama's back. I mean, I'm just trying to tell everybody, Bama is back. I'm just trying to tell everybody. But let me say this, and I'm going to bring this up. I do not know what Lane Kiffin, because, I'm back on Lane Kiffin. I don't know what Lane Kiffin was doing in his last, I'm going to call it at bat, the last time they had the ball. I don't know. That was the worst play calling I've ever seen by Lane Kiffin. Trey, they let 4 or 5 minutes go off the clock. I'm glad for it, but it didn't make sense.
I got you, Wendy. And literally the question I was about to say is, do you think Bama is back? And Wendy, you've answered the question. Do you think Bama's back?
Yeah, Bama's back. We're not losing another ball game. We're winning the national championship, and we're beating Georgia. That's where I'm going. After last week, second half, that's where I'm at. I'm back on.
I love it. And get back to the Lane Kiffin thing, Wendy, there were 6 or 7 minutes ago in that game, and I think what everybody's wondering about, why was he running the ball so much? One thing you got to understand about Ole Miss had 3 timeouts. Ole Miss did miss a wide open receiver in the end zone when they ran those 2 little seam routes and had those 2 guys wide open, and that was with 3 or 4 minutes to go in the game. So I don't know that was as crazy as maybe some people have brought up. It didn't seem as big a deal to me because he had the 3 timeouts. I mean,
that's true.
He was going to be in a position that if he scored, he was going to be able to kick the ball off and try to get the ball back. Whether he had a minute, 48 seconds, or 2 minutes, that might have been more of the problem. But once again, Lane Kiffin really can't score any points, and he's supposed to be the godfather. Well, I think we know who the godfather is. It is Nick Saban.
It is Nick Saban.
Bring it on home. Wendy, let's get to this week's games. We're rocking and rolling in the free world. It has not rained in Birmingham, Alabama in about 10 days.
Oh, it's awful. So, dusty. God.
Dusty, ground's hard. Let's get to this week's games, Wendy. We're going to go from top to bottom. We have Tennessee and South Carolina. South Carolina put Tennessee's dreams on all hopes last year. South Carolina beat Tennessee. Tennessee will play South Carolina this weekend in Neyland Stadium, Rocky Top. What's going to happen, Wendy? What's up?
So everybody's going crazy up here. Honestly, everybody's nervous. I've not talked to a Tennessee fan that is not a nervous wreck. And I think they have a good reason. I think Spencer Rattler's the real deal. I think that absolutely that South Carolina can figure this thing out if they want to. The only thing that I think is different is I think Tennessee's line, both defense and offense, is a little bit better this year. I really do believe that. But, man, I just think it's all contingent, Trey, on how Spencer Rattler plays. I'm being serious. I think it's all contingent on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Wendy, I still think Tennessee's going to hammer South Carolina this year. South Carolina just got done playing an overtime game with Mississippi State last week. Tennessee, I think, is a little bit better than what people really want. And maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. I think it's in them. And I think them being at home this year, Wendy, I like the Tennessee Vols to roll up there, get Rocky Top pumping, and get the Vol Navy honking the horns. I don't think they're going to drag the goalpost out and throw them into the river after this game. This should just be a standard win for them. But big game up in Tennessee this weekend. So Wendy,
you're calling Tennessee. I'm calling South Carolina.
Oh, okay. You like okay? Well, cool.
I'm just telling you. I'm trying to tell you, South Carolina is going to win the game.
Okay, well that's fine. It's not going to be close. Tennessee will drill them this year.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll put that on for next week. All right, Wendy, we're going to go just a couple of games this week. We got the Auburn football Tigers once again with the Georgia Bulldogs. Barry Jacob Webb. Bulldog fans down there at the beach right now got a big game in Auburn this week. Wendy, Georgia's really owned this series. It's not like Alabama-Auburn where we're 50-50 with the people for the past 10 years. Georgia's owned this series. Auburn's not been a problem with Georgia. Can Auburn be a problem for Georgia tomorrow or not, Wendy?
No, and I actually hate it that they have these 2 games back to back because it might be a little confidence killer. But, one of my really good friends, Darcy, we love Darcy, big Auburn fan, but I do know. I just don't. just says Anna. She loves it, Trey. Every single time we talk about this, every single time. But I just don't think Auburn's ready. I don't think they're ready. I don't think they've got the players. I don't think they'll match up well against Georgia. But I do think it could be a good first quarter. I don't think Georgia's coming out strong in the beginning of any game they played. So I do think, it'll be a little interesting, but I see Georgia running away with it at the end. Obviously, I want Georgia to lose, though. Obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Auburn. How are they going to score points? I mean, it's one thing to have a good defense, but at some point you have to score. Like, it's not like we can kind of play close all the time. At some point you're going to have to score. If anybody can figure it out, I really think Freeze can. They might can catch lightning in a bottle, maybe catch Georgia a little shaky and be able to hang on late. I look for a good game, good atmosphere, and I know the people down in Auburn are going to have a good time.
Yes.
It's going to be tough. Probably Georgia's going to be happy this week. Barry, Jacob, they can get lit up, doing the dog stuff. And that will be that. Wendy, we're going to get to Alabama, Mississippi State that comes off 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Central time. Wendy, it's late for anybody.
I don't understand the game time, and I'm pissed off about it. I'll say it. We are Alabama. We are the University of Alabama. I understand we didn't win a natty last year. I understand, but like a 9 o'clock Eastern for me, Trey. I'm in bed at 9:45. So I'm pissed off about the game time. I really, really am. But here's the deal. Now that Bama's back, we're gonna kill Mississippi State. They ain't got We're killing everybody now. I'm back on the bandwagon. Nobody worry. I'm back in it to win it until something crazy happens.
Yeah, Wendy, and listen, Alabama, I think Alabama found their formula last week, but I still think it's a formula of we're going to be sitting kind of on the edge of our seat a little bit. I don't think just because Alabama won the game last week, we're going to be some totally different team. I still think we're going to be the defensive team, special teams, field position a little bit, and be scoring 24, 28 points. I don't see us beating Mississippi State 42-0. I have a feeling at 12 o'clock at night, we're going to be looking at the TV and it being, 27-13, with 3 minutes with 3 minutes left to go to the game. I just feel like that's how we're playing. That's how these games are going to go. So, this is going to be, as I said in our I got a good text thread with a bunch of guys with Nacho and a bunch of those people down in Florida, but this is going to be a slow burn. Like, and last week I was like, either this is going to be a slow burn and we're going to win the game, or you better burn one slow. So whichever way you're going.
Well, Alabama. I hope you're wrong. I hope we drill them. I hope like the second half carries over and like we just look like a completely different team. You might be right. That might not be our offensive capabilities this year, right? Like we know we're obviously counting on the defense for basically everything at this point. But I totally agree with that. I need a game where I don't feel like I'm going to cry, have a heart attack, break everything in the house, divorce my husband. Like I need a game that all of those things don't happen in a day. That's what I need. And I thought it was going to be Mississippi State until you sat here and said all this crap. So
I don't think we're going to win the game, but I just still think these are not, hey, it's 35-0 at half and they can't pick up a first down. It's going to be like, hey, it's 17-3 at half. And this is still a game, is what I'm feeling. Wendy, we'll wrap this thing up. It's been really fun, this Friday thing. It seems to be working for us. I want to bring up one thing, and we got all these kids events. And this goes back to our childhood again, is water bottles, okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want to know what point in time – I got one. Where's mine? Here's mine. Let's see. This is one I drink out of. Okay. Yeah, I drink out of water bottle. I just carry it everywhere I go. It didn't seem like as a kid anybody ever told me to get my water bottle.
Nobody ever did.
It's almost like we just went to the field. There was a big Gatorade bucket there with some cups, and you drank a little bit of water. But Wendy, in today's world, water bottles are king of everything.
Yes.
I went to a Little League soccer game last weekend, Wendy, and I just started looking around at water bottles. There was 150 people there, and there were probably 200 water bottles.
Right.
Everybody carries a water bottle. When did this happen? Wendy, what's up?
So Trey, really what happened was they figured out there was a bunch of lead in the hoses and in the water fountains. So you're right. But really we were drinking out of water fountains. And remember after our bowl games, we were getting Mountain Dews and Cokes, and remember everybody got a free drink, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the water bottles came about when everybody maybe started figuring out there was some lead in that water, that public water. And I'm just telling you, that's what happened. So now they don't want their kids drinking after somebody else. Back in mine and yours when we were little, we just drank We just picked
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
up and drank it. Like
Yeah.
there could have been beer in it. We wouldn't have known. We just
Right.
picked it up. Nowadays, people are way too bougie for that. Everybody, and they've got to have their name on them. You know, the little ones, they have their names on them.
Yeah.
So they don't. But the real thing is when you count how many you've lost. So we've probably lost about 70 since my kids were born, like 70.
It's a money-making venture. Just start making water bottles. Wendy, water bottles are reign supreme. If you don't have one, what are you doing with your life? All right, Wendy, let's crank this thing down. What's up this weekend? What are you doing?
Listen, because it's like, you know, a 9 o'clock game and I'm a geriatric patient. I'm not doing anything. I'm probably going to be in bed by 9:45. Like, I'll watch games all day, but we're not doing anything as a family because it's too late. It's just too late. What are you going to do?
I think the same thing, Wendy. There's going to be some good football games on tomorrow. I think we got a little flag football game in the morning, just the typical Saturday run-of-the-mill stuff. I will say this real quick. Somebody that I know really well, I'm not going to mention her name, Destiny, but there's this new thing with cars that the cars have to have gas in them to go. And you know, that was something that that was highlighted this morning a little bit more. That is a very, very important thing in a car is gas. So, you know, Wendy, sometimes you have to get back down to the basics.
Yeah, you really do. And you got to remember that there are gas stations on every corner. The excuses are slim when we run out. But hey, real quick before we get off here, shout out to one of my best friends, Val. It is her birthday. It's coming up. So I got to go to lunch with her today and I was really excited. But happy birthday, sweet Val. We love you. We love that you listen and you comment. You were so sweet to us. And we hope your day is absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Wendy. And that's good you mentioned those comments because we did have some people comment. Mom commented last week. She thinks we're back on track. Jason Ronkill commented last week having to talk you off the absolute ledge.
Yep.
And some other people were commenting. So we really enjoy the comments on here. We'll get to them next week. Wendy, I'm out of here. I love you.
Hey, I love you. And roll tide. We'll see y'all next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.